Across the boundless stretches of Australia's red earth lies a secret hidden away for more than a century and a half. Ludwig Leichhardt, an idealistic explorer, set out to accomplish a feat no human had ever dared to attempt, crossing the entire Australian continent from coast to coast. Yet after leading his expedition party into the dense bushland one quiet morning in 1848, he and every member of his team vanished, completely fading away from all human memory and record. Tonight, accompanied by the gentle glow of the hearth, let us step through the mist of history and search for the wandering soul lost deep within the desolate wilderness. Some believe Ludwig Leichhardt perished from crippling thirst, others claim he fell victim to internal conflict among his own men, and many more whisper that he chose to walk away from civilization and live in quiet seclusion among the wilds. The mysterious disappearance of this German-born scientist remains the most famous unsolved enigma in Australian history, drawing generation after generation of searchers and explorers into its haunting mystery. This forgotten journey carries not only the unforgiving cruelty of untamed nature but also tangled struggles and fractured bonds between human beings. On this quiet night, relax your heart and mind and follow me into this true tale woven with suspense, destiny, and the quiet weight of fate. Ludwig Leichhardt, known in his time as the Prince of the Wilderness, left nothing behind for the world save a handful of tattered, incomplete letters. He sensed the overwhelming hardship of his final expedition long before setting out, yet still chose to step resolutely into that vast land known as a realm of no return. This journey was far more than a geographical act of exploration. It stood as an ultimate contest of willpower, authority, and raw human survival. Tonight, let this quiet story settle softly in your mind and allow yourself to experience the silent, dangerous, haunting beauty hidden deep within the Australian inland. Imagine an endless expanse of reddish-brown earth where the scorching heat warps the very air around you and silence hangs so heavy that only the faint rustle of dry grass stirred by the wind can be heard. Here there are no marked paths, no reliable sources of fresh water, only a desolate wilderness capable of swallowing all traces of human civilization without a whisper. In 1848, Ludwig Leichhardt set off from Australia's eastern coastline with 7 companions and dozens of livestock, determined to traverse 3,000 kilometers of uncharted territory to reach the Swan River on the western shore. Yet from that fateful morning onward, his entire expedition faded as if melting into thin air, never to be seen or heard from again. Tonight, accompanied by the softly flickering glow of the hearth fire, we walk fully into the untold life of this remarkable soul. Through this tranquil tale meant only for quiet reflection, Ludwig Leichhardt rose as the brightest scientific star of his age in Australia, yet also became one of its most baffling and tragic failures. More than 170 years have passed, countless search parties have scoured every crevice and rocky stretch of the outback, yet not a single button, shard of broken pottery, or fragment of camp equipment has ever been uncovered. His fate is far more than a geographical tragedy. It unfolds as a haunting drama of pride, betrayal, and the sudden collapse of human nature pushed to the edge of survival. Now, settle into a comfortable, still posture, close your eyes, and journey back with me into the ambitious, dangerous, untamed wilderness of the 19th century. Ludwig Leichhardt was never built in the mold of traditional rugged wilderness explorers. He was a Prussian intellectual, a thoughtful, scholarly man who wore wire-rimmed glasses and always carried a leather-bound folder for collecting botanical specimens. He narrowly survived his first expedition by sheer miracle, bringing back records of countless new plant and animal species that had never been documented by European settlers, catapulting him overnight into the status of a national hero across Australia. Yet beneath the shine of his public success lay a subtle, unspoken rift. His own crew members wrote candidly in their private journals, describing him as an eccentric, cold, and distant leader, lacking warmth, empathy, and understanding toward his fellow travelers. This stubborn, unyielding streak in his personality grew more pronounced and uncompromising in the months leading up to his final expedition. In the early months of 1848, he prepared supplies and provisions within Sydney, earning glowing praise from local newspapers and intellectual circles. Yet unease lingered quietly among the men who planned to follow him into the outback. He refused to hire experienced native guides familiar with inland terrain, choosing instead to trust entirely in his own intuition, believing that scientific knowledge and theoretical study alone would be enough to conquer the unknown wilderness. This intellectual arrogance began poisoning the fragile unity of his expedition from the very moment they stepped foot into the inland bush. At night, around crackling campfires, his men spoke in hushed, uneasy whispers, watching Leichhardt's solitary, distant silhouette as a vague sense of dread spread through the small group. Long before they faced the harsh trials of the outback, the expedition was already tangled in invisible tension, uncertainty, and quiet unrest. As the party ventured deeper into the very heart of the Australian continent, the landscape grew brutally unforgiving and the already fragile bonds between companions began to fray completely beneath the crushing heat. Leichhardt's demand for strict discipline bordered on obsession. Even in the grip of severe water shortage, he insisted on maintaining meticulous daily scientific recordings and written observations to his exhausted, thirsty crew. This rigid devotion to order felt like a careless disregard for their very right to survive. The only seasoned bushmen in the group familiar with inland survival urged Leichhardt to alter their route and seek safer terrain, yet Leichhardt viewed the suggestion as a direct challenge to his leadership authority and refused sharply without hesitation. During the driest, most desperate days of their journey, bitter quarrels erupted among the men and rumors spread of physical confrontation and open hostility. It is easy to picture Leichhardt sitting alone inside his tent on those cold moonlit outback nights, quietly writing entries in journals that no one would ever read. He carefully noted the Latin names of newly discovered plants, while outside the thin canvas walls his parched, weary companion stared toward the glow of his lantern with quiet resentment and mounting bitterness. The pressure of clashing authority and the desperate fight for survival turned the once hopeful expedition into a powder keg ready to explode at any moment. Their last confirmed sighting came at Kogon Station. Leichhardt still carried an air of unshakable determination, yet his eyes held a haunting, feverish intensity. He remained convinced he would discover hidden oases and fertile stretches deep within the inland, never realizing that nature was quietly tightening its grip, closing off every path of escape. History holds many dark, unsettling theories surrounding the mysterious disappearance of Ludwig Leichhardt. The most widely accepted belief is that his entire party was caught in an unprecedented inland flood. Though the Australian interior is known for crippling drought, sudden downpours can turn dry riverbeds into raging, deadly torrents in a matter of hours. Yet this explanation cannot account for why no traces of wreckage, supplies or personal belongings were ever washed downstream and discovered by settlers. Another, far more unsettling speculation lingers in historical record, that somewhere deep within that nameless, isolated wilderness the exhausted, desperate crew rose up in mutiny, pushed past the limits of endurance by unbearable thirst, hunger and relentless hardship. The thin layer of civilized restraint fell away completely, leading the men to kill their stubborn, unyielding leader. Afterward, those mutinous travelers may have perished one by one from starvation while attempting to retrace their steps, or become forever lost amid the endless red dust storms of the outback. In Leichhardt's final surviving letter, his tone remained strangely calm and serene, as if he had already foreseen his inevitable fate. He wrote gently of the quiet, haunting beauty of the Australian bush, and even spoke of a quiet longing to merge completely with the ancient land itself. This sense of martyrdom in pursuit of natural truth cloaks his disappearance in an almost mystical spiritual haze. He set out to map new territories and unlock geographical secrets, yet perhaps he sought something deeper, embracing extreme isolation as a quiet act of spiritual self-exile. The 170 years of relentless searching that followed Leichhardt's vanishing act forms an epic tale of human obsession, persistence and unyielding curiosity. Explorers and search parties have found tree trunks carved with the simple letter L and listened to ancient oral stories passed down through Aboriginal tribes speaking of a solitary white ghost wandering the remote outback. Yet every fleeting clue and hopeful lead eventually faded into uncertainty and hearsay. Ludwig Leichhardt seemed to erase every trace of his existence, deliberately leaving behind no relics, no graves, no clear signs of his fate. This complete vanishing instead granted him an eternal place within Australian culture, transforming him into a living embodiment of the outback's quiet, untamed power. Novelists, poets and filmmakers have spent decades reconstructing his final hours, crafting countless imagined endings to his unfinished journey. In truth, for those captivated by his story, the journey of searching for answers carries greater healing meaning than the raw truth itself. His fate reminds humanity how small and humble human ambition appears against the quiet, eternal vastness of the earth, yet how noble and courageous it remains all the same. Deep within the most silent, untouched core of the Australian inland, he built himself a nameless, unmarked tomb. His primal bond with nature claimed his life, yet gifted him the ultimate gift of eternal quiet peace. Perhaps his expedition never truly failed at all. They simply chose to remain beneath the outback stars, walking no longer back to the noise and chaos of the civilized world. The tale of Ludwig Leichhardt draws slowly to its quiet close now. The night beyond the window mirrors the deep, calm, quiet wilderness where he drew his last breath. That unfinished expedition fading into the vast outback has over long years softened into a gentle backdrop of calm for our peaceful rest. There is no need to dwell endlessly on which tree finally sheltered his last moments, nor unravel every tangled thread of human conflict and struggle within his party. Simply remember that a brave Soul once walked fearlessly into the deepest unknown, chasing the inner light of curiosity, ambition and discovery. In this quiet hour let your thoughts settle like the slow drifting wind across the red earth. All lingering suspense, inner conflict and unspoken struggle will dissolve away into the soft embrace of peaceful dream. Starlight still falls gently over the ancient red land, and you too will sink into tranquil rest, wrapped in the timeless quiet of the outback. Good night and peaceful dreams.